Imagine a world without electric light. When the sun sets, darkness falls, absolute and complete. For most of human history, the night was a realm of danger, mystery, and limitation. The first solution was fire. Campfires provided warmth, protection, and a small circle of light. But fire was dangerous, smoky, and required constant tending. It could not be carried easily. The torch, a burning branch or bundle of reeds, was the first portable light source. But it burned quickly, smoked heavily, and the next major leap came from the ancient Greeks and Romans. They discovered that a slow-burning flame could be sustained inside a container. The first oil lamps were simple clay bowls filled with olive oil, with a floating wick made of linen or papyrus. These lamps produced a steady, clean flame that could burn for hours. They were safer than torches and could be placed on tables, carried by hand, or hung from ceilings. The design remained essentially unchanged for thousands of years. For centuries, candles were the primary source of portable indoor light. Early candles were made from animal fat, tallow, which burned with a smoky, smelly flame. The wealthy could afford beeswax candles, which burned cleaner and brighter. But candles were expensive and melted quickly. A single room might require several candles to read or work by. The invention of the candle mold in the 15th century made production easier, but light remained a luxury. The real breakthrough came in the 18th century with the discovery of coal gas. In 1792, Scottish engineer William Murdoch successfully lit his home with gas produced by heating coal. This was the birth of gas lighting. Soon, gas lamps lined the streets of London, Paris, and other major cities. For the first time, public spaces could be illuminated after dark. Crime decreased, social life extended into the evening, and factories could operate around the clock. Gas lighting transformed the rhythm of urban life, but it was still dirty, dangerous, and dim from a variety of materials: stone, clay, metal, even glass. The design spread across continents, each culture adding its own twist. In ancient Egypt, lamps were often shaped like lotus flowers, while the Romans mass-produced terracotta lamps with intricate reliefs. The basic principle remained the same, but the oil lamp had a fundamental flaw. It smoked, it flickered, and it could easily tip over. For centuries, people lived with these limitations. Then in the 18th century, a Swiss chemist named Aimé Argand invented a lamp that changed everything. He added a hollow, circular wick and a glass chimney, creating a draft that made the flame burn brighter and steadier. The Argand lamp was a sensation. It produced a light equivalent to 10 candles, and it was clean and safe. Suddenly, people could read, work, and socialize after dark without straining their eyes. The lamp became a status symbol, with elaborate designs in brass and crystal adorning the parlors of the wealthy. But it was still expensive, and it required whale oil, which was costly and scarce. The search for a cheaper fuel led to the development of kerosene, distilled from petroleum. In the 1850s, the kerosene lamp became the standard, bringing affordable light to millions. It was simple, reliable, and burned brightly. For the first time, ordinary people could extend their day beyond sunset. The oil lamp in its many forms had illuminated human progress for over 15,000 years, but its reign was about to end. The fuel of choice in the Mediterranean was olive oil. It burned cleanly and brightly, with relatively little smoke. The Roman Empire's vast olive oil trade was driven in part by the demand for lamp fuel. Roman lamps became highly sophisticated. They had closed bodies to prevent spills, a central filling hole, and one or more nozzles. Some lamps were mass-produced in molds, allowing for intricate decorations. Common motifs included gods, animals, and scenes from daily life. The widespread use of oil lamps meant that even ordinary homes could have light after sunset, extending the day for work and leisure. A typical single-nozzle lamp produced about as much light as a modern candle, roughly 10 to 15 lumens. Multi-nozzle lamps could double or triple that, but at the cost. Lamps were not just functional, they were also decorative. Greek and Roman lamps often featured intricate reliefs of gods, animals, or everyday scenes. They were objects of art as well as oil lamps were affordable for most households. A simple clay lamp cost only a few cents in today's money, making artificial light accessible to the masses for the first time. The widespread use of oil lamps extended the productive day. People could work, read, and socialize after sunset, transforming daily life in the ancient world. For many, though not all, a simple clay lamp cost a few cents in modern terms. The ongoing cost of oil was the greater expense. A liter of olive oil could provide about 100 hours of light. For those who could afford it, the oil lamp extended the day. After sunset, families could gather, work, read, and socialize. The lamp was a hub of candles were another ancient innovation. The earliest known candles were made by the Egyptians around 3000 BC using tallow from animal fat or beeswax. These early candles provided a steady, portable flame. They were used in religious ceremonies, to light homes, and to mark the passage of time. The candle became a symbol of both practical light and spiritual illumination. The oil lamp and candle were not just sources of light. They were tools that reshaped human society. They allowed work and study after dark, fostered family time, and enabled religious and cultural practices. The simple act of lighting a lamp or candle connected people across centuries, a small flame that pushed back the darkness and expanded the boundaries of the day. BCE using rush pith soaked in animal fat. The Romans improved the design by using beeswax. A beeswax candle burned cleaner and brighter than tallow with a pleasant honey scent. But beeswax was expensive, so tallow candles made from beef or sheep fat were more common among the poor. For the very poor, even a tallow candle was a luxury. Many relied on rushlights, dried reeds dipped in kitchen grease. They burned for only about 15 minutes each, but they were nearly free. In China, candles were made from whale fat and later from plant waxes like those from the tallow tree. The Chinese also developed candles with embedded bamboo wicks that burned more steadily. Meanwhile, in India, wax from boiling cinnamon was used for temple candles. These early candles were not just sources of light. They held religious and ceremonial significance. They marked time, honored deities, and accompanied rituals. During the Middle Ages, candle making became a respected craft. Tallow chandlers collected animal fat from butcher shops, rendered it, and poured it into molds. The smell was unpleasant, but the candles were affordable. Beeswax candles remained a luxury for the wealthy and the church. In castles and cathedrals, beeswax candles burned in chandeliers, casting a warm, steady light. The guilds of chandlers held significant power, regulating the quality and price of candles. The 18th century brought major changes. In 1750, spermaceti, a waxy substance from sperm whale oil, was used to create a superior candle. It burned brighter and harder than tallow or beeswax without smoke or smell. Spermaceti candles became the standard for quality, but whaling had a dark side. It drove sperm whales to near extinction. The demand for light came at a great cost to the natural world. Candles were made from whale fat and plant waxes as early as the Han Dynasty. They were often used inside decorative lanterns, which also served to protect the flame from drafts. In India, ghee, clarified butter, was a common lamp fuel, especially in religious contexts. Ghee lamps are still used in Hindu ceremonies today, a tradition spanning thousands of years. To put ancient lighting in perspective, a single candle gives about 10 lumens. A good oil lamp might give 15. A torch could give around 80 lumens, but it was smoky and short-lived. These humble flames were the only light people had after sunset for most of humanity. A modern 60-watt bulb gives 800 lumens. Torches remained essential for outdoor use. The best torches were made from resinous woods like pine or from bundles of reeds soaked in pitch. They were bright but short. For moving around at night, the wealthy used oil lamps carried by slaves. The less fortunate used torches or simply stayed home. The night was still a time of limited mobility. One of the most significant innovations was the candle. Early candles were made from tallow animal fat, which produced a smoky, smelly flame. Beeswax candles were much better, burning cleanly and giving off a pleasant scent, but they were expensive and reserved for the wealthy. Candles were also used for timekeeping. A candle marked with evenly spaced lines could measure the passing hours as it burned down. This was a simple but effective way to track time indoors, long before mechanical clocks became spectacular. Ancient lights was the lighthouse. The Pharos of Alexandria, built around 280 BCE, used a large fire at its summit, reflected by polished bronze mirrors. It could be seen for miles. The Pharos was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Its light was a beacon for ships, but it also symbolized the power of human ingenuity. Did any ancient city have streetlights? The answer is yes, but not in the modern sense. Few wealthy Romans could afford to light their private streets with oil lamps, but public lighting was almost non-existent. Most cities were pitch black after sunset. The only light came from the moon, stars, or the occasional torch carried by a passer. In ancient China, however, the situation was different. During the Tang dynasty, the capital Chang'an had a system of street lamps fueled by fish oil. These lamps were lit at dusk and extinguished at dawn, providing a measure of safety and order. It was a remarkable achievement for its time. Few wealthy cities experimented with public lighting, though it was never widespread. In ancient Rome, some wealthy homeowners placed oil lamps outside their doors to light the street. But this was private charity, not a municipal service. Most streets remain. There is evidence that the city of Antioch in Syria had a form of public lighting in the 4th century CE. The city prefect ordered that lamps be hung in the colonnaded streets to deter crime. These lamps were likely fueled by olive oil, a common and relatively cheap resource in the region. They would have been lit at dusk and extinguished at dawn, requiring a dedicated team of lamplighters. This system was remarkable for its time, but it was an exception. Most of the ancient world, including the vast majority of Rome, remained unlit after sunset, relying on the moon, stars, and the occasional torch carried by a passerby. By olive oil and tended by slaves. The system was expensive and probably only covered the main streets. It was a remarkable but short-lived experiment. The Emperor Julian in the 4th century was known to have provided public lighting in some cities. But after his death, the practice largely disappeared. The cost was simply too high. In ancient China, during the Tang dynasty, public lighting was more common. Paper lanterns with candles were hung along major streets and near markets. They were often paid for by merchant guilds. Even the best ancient public lighting was dim. A single oil lamp or candle could only illuminate a few meters. The night was still a time of deep shadows and limited visibility. Nevertheless, even a few lights could deter crime and make navigation easier. The psychological impact of light was significant. It made people feel safer, even if the actual illumination was minimal. For the wealthy, private lighting was essential. They carried lamps or had slaves, carry torches to light their way through the dark streets. This created a stark contrast between the illuminated wealthy and the dark masses. The night belonged to those who could afford to push it back. The poor relied on moonlight or simply stayed indoors after dark. Lighting was expensive. A single oil lamp burning for a few hours each night could cost a significant portion of a laborer's wages. This economic reality limited the spread of artificial light. For the majority of ancient people, the night was truly dark. They went to bed soon after sunset and woke at dawn. Artificial light was a rare and precious commodity. Scholars and scribes were among the few who could afford to work by lamplight after dark. But even for them, the cost was high. A single lamp could consume a month's worth of olive oil. This scarcity shaped the rhythm of ancient life, where darkness was not a choice but a daily reality. Few who regularly used artificial light for work. The philosopher Seneca complained about the poor quality of lamp light, saying it was bad for the eyes. Glass lamps were a luxury item. They allowed light to pass through, creating a softer, more diffuse glow. But glass was fragile and expensive, so they were rare. Light had deep religious significance. In Greek and Roman temples, lamps were kept burning perpetually as offerings to the gods. The flame was a symbol of the divine. The flame was a symbol of the divine. In Judaism, the menorah was a central symbol. The 7-branched lampstand in the Temple of Jerusalem was made of pure gold and burned olive oil. It represented light as divine wisdom. From the simple oil lamp to the towering Pharos, ancient peoples found remarkable ways to conquer the night. Their solutions were born of necessity, refined by ingenuity, and limited by resources. They remind us that light, even a single flame, has always been more than illumination. It is safety, community, and hope. From the simple oil lamp to the towering Pharos, ancient peoples found remarkable ways to conquer the night. Their solutions were born of necessity, refined by ingenuity, and limited by resources. They remind us that light, even a single flame, has always been more than illumination. It is safety, community, and hope.